Hey everybody, welcome to another episode 65. I almost said 46. I don't know where that came from. Haven't been in the 40s for a good chunk of time now. 65, episode
for a
65.
good for a good 20 episodes.
Right. Like I said, before I kind of started looking over, like, oh no, we're episode four. Oh, wait a second, I got to look over. We're 65. But welcome everybody. Glad you take some time out of your day to listen to us. We appreciate it. Um, Hopefully we get you tuned in a little bit, grab your attention. We're going to talk a little bit about, I guess, stuff that's kind of happened in the MMA, the MMA,
UFC, MMA, fight
UFC
world.
fight world, yeah, and then some huntings. I don't, not really hunting topics, but just more. I guess like kind of hunting topics, but hunting life or what revolves around the hunting world. Some topics around that. Um, so hopefully we can spin our words in a way to keep you motivated to stay tuned and enjoy what we have to say. But with that being said, I'll just go ahead and kind of take us into it. So we had a couple good fights, or a good fight maybe. I don't know if you call it a good. Do you call it a good fight this last bout?
Oh man. I don't
Or
know.
it could
Did
have
you
been a
did
good fight, right?
yeah. It was definitely interesting. I feel like every time I spend money on these fights, they always end in a way where it's like I have to question myself. Did I get my money's worth, or did I overpay for this one? And I feel like every time I pay for one, that's kind of what I leave with. Um, I don't know. Is there any thoughts that you have like off the top, or do you want me to just roll away with
I'll
it?
let you go ahead and go into it because all my stuff I know about is all aftermath. So I didn't experience the fight or watch it, and I haven't really honestly dived, dove, dived,
Dove.
dove too far into like the fight. I just hear a little bit here and there. So I would just go ahead and let you, I guess, give what you want to say and then go from there.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll start out this way because I watched all the fights and I gotta say, uh, Greg Hardy, he was I really thought he would have a better showing than he did, and I can't remember what round he got knocked out in. I want to say it might have been the first round. I don't even think he got out of the first round, but he looked pretty aggressive at first. Greg Hardy is an ex football player, and
Uh,
I don't know a lot about him, but his name's been brought up, and well, he had a little bit of controversy in his football career, and long story short, he was probably not well liked in the football world for a while, but had a little run in with some domestic abuse or something, and but I've his name is always being talked about in the UFC world, and I heard anyway, so I kind of followed him a little bit, seeing how he was doing. And uh at the beginning of the fight, they were like, oh, he's been talking about um how he's been working really hard on his craft and really trying to do the thing. And he's a heavyweight. So, heavyweight game is just, I mean, it's kind of a puncher's chance. And I'll probably get who he fought. I'll probably get his name wrong, but Ty Tavesa. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce his name, and anybody listening probably give me a little bit of crap for that if you're a big UFC guy. But anyways, he's a pretty good fighter. Whenever when he first walked out, I'm like, I think Greg Hardy has this one. Just kind of looking off of presence, because Greg Hardy is a lot bigger, and uh, I was like, man, it kind of, just off of looks, it looks like Greg Hardy might have this one. And that guy was, he's a character. He's probably going to be a pretty big name in the UFC, but he knocked out Greg Hardy, and Greg Hardy, he looked really good at the beginning of the fight, but didn't, he fell quick. He got hit with a good, I think it was a hook, and fell to the canvas, and it was lights out for him. Uh, but Ty, he's a character. he on his walkout, or whenever he's walking out of the arena, he was grabbing just something that he does, I guess, but he was grabbing people's, like, people were pouring beer in their shoes and giving him beer. And so he would drink the beer out of people's shoes. Kind of disgusting, but I don't know. He's probably going to end up being a fan favorite because of stuff like that, you know? So
Yeah.
he's kind of a character, but it was cool to watch. The other one, which I think might've been the fight of the night, I don't really know. I'm pretty sure it was Sean O'Malley and Chris, these guys' names kind of, you got, you know, especially the first time that I ever heard their name, but Moutino, Chris Moutino, that was like the fight of the night. Chris O'Malley, he's kind of an up and comer, and he's good. He's really good. And this Chris guy, he kind of took the fight on a short notice, but his stature was a lot smaller than Chris O'Malley's. But that guy, he just kept pressing forward the whole time. I mean, he got punched so many times, and you would think that he was, you know, like, you're like, man, this guy should have gotten knocked out like a long time ago, but he stayed on his feet and kept pressing forward. It was a really good fight. It was one that you really missed, or that like you didn't want to miss, I should say. And then, you know, I won't spend too much time on those guys, but the big one is Poirier and McGregor. And obviously, you know, there was a lot of stuff there. Now, I just want to explain it from my point of view. I didn't always know Dustin Poirier for the longest time, but, you know, or not his whole career, I should say, but I have gotten to know him in the last like year or so. His name's been kind of brought up a lot more, and I followed him, and every time I heard him talk, he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. Him and Theo Vaughn, who's a comedian. I listen to their podcast, and they're friends. They're both from Louisiana. And anyway, listening to their podcast or listening to him talk and stuff, I became a fan of Dustin Poirier, but I didn't really, you know, I've kind of, I guess after this fight, kind of understand or know him a little bit better, as a fighter. And I was already a fan of his, or I thought he was a really good dude. That's the biggest thing is he's a really good dude. He does he builds wells for the Pygmies, or he's with that organization, with Justin Wren and Manny Pacquiao, I believe is who he said he was partnered up with. And what they do is they try to raise money to build wells for the Pygmies, and you know, I don't know, just pretty cool thing. And he kept bringing that up in his post fight interviews. He kept bringing that up and about how that meant a lot more to him, that he, you know, really wanted to put his name behind that. And just a really, just like I said, just kind of like listening to his interviews and stuff. And I'm like, man, that's a really good dude. But anyways, getting into the fight, that's what everybody really cares about, I guess, is the thoughts and opinions of the fight. And, my personal take was I was always a fan of McGregor. Just I've been trying to break it down, and I got it completely understood in my own mind. But I was a fan of him because of his come up. You know, he was this confident guy, like overly confident guy, trash talk.
Right.
You know, just totally
showy and almost can back it in a way. Like, you know, he was cocky, but like
he could back it up. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like everybody else, you know, I mean, you become a fan of them. You know, it's easy to be a fan of. I feel like since everything has happened as far as making all the money and stuff, I mean, I feel like he's kind of lost a step. I feel like he's lost a step in his hunger. I mean, not even maybe his fight game, but his hunger, the way he trash talks. You know, I think sometimes whenever you're a trash talker like that, you kind of run out of original material, and you start kind of going doing things that are out of character, or maybe not the most sportsmanlike stuff. And what I mean by that is, Dustin Poirier, he said in this post-fight interview, he's like, this guy, he's talking about how he was going to kill me and put me in the grave and, all this stuff. And he's like, I get trash talking, but talking about killing somebody is kind of a whole nother level. And whenever he said that, I was like, man, he's right. Like, it's kind of disgusting of McGregor to do that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I lost a little respect for him, for McGregor, for, kind of going that route, I guess,
So I
go
didn't,
ahead.
I didn't, I don't, I didn't follow it that closely. I didn't, I had kind of tuned in after the fight and kind of watched some memes and stuff. And anyways, and I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit, but wasn't like McGregor a little disrespectful? Was it McGregor disrespectful to his wife, to what's his face's wife, while he was down? Like,
Yeah. So he was like, your wife was in my DMs and whatever. And even that, I feel like that, it's just in McGregor's nature to always have something to say. But as soon as he said that, me and my wife were watching, and she's like, you think that's true? And I said, no, it's not even remotely true. I feel like everybody that's the new age of trash talk, right? Is
right.
you run out of good material to say, and so you say, oh, your girl was in my DMs, and it's kind of cringy if you ask me. Like, it's just kind of a whole nother level of douchebaggery, in my opinion.
Right. That stand up side of it all, you kind of almost, I guess, stepping down to a level that's not really necessary to go to.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know that he's trying to promote a fight, and their last fight, to kind of go back, which was in January, and I didn't buy that one. I wish I would have. Now, me and my wife, I think we're really getting into. I mean, we're gonna probably go broke by the end of the year buying all these fights, but we've been getting into them. They're just exciting and fun entertainment. But I didn't buy that second fight, or the number 2, because they've fought 3 times now, and I didn't buy number 2. But I did, I was watching the highlights, if you will, some of the pre-fight stuff and post-fight stuff, and they were really respectful to each other on that last fight. And I think after McGregor got knocked out and lost that last fight, this one was like he was really trying to overprove himself, and so he kind of came in with a whole new approach, and he was talking trash, bringing in the wife thing, talking about killing Dustin, and just the whole thing. And I don't know, it just kind of, all these years kind of rooting for him and kind of going for him, it all kind of went away this time for me, because I don't know. It just kind of, it was a little too cringy. I respect a good trash talk, and I respect it's exciting. It kind of reminds me of Muhammad Ali in a way. And Muhammad Ali's like way before my time, obviously, but at the same time, going back and looking at, all the footage of him and all the smack talk and stuff, and that, he sold fights. I mean, that was the thing, is
Right.
Ali really sold fights. And so McGregor was kind of like that personality a little bit, the new age Muhammad Ali kind of thing. And so I've always been a fan of him, but this last fight, like, just kind of changed in me a little bit. I say all that though, because I'm getting way off course here. I say all that because we don't bet a lot of money, but it's fun to put a couple bucks on fights, right? Because even just a couple bucks, you go for the person that you put
Right.
money on. And I put a couple bucks on McGregor, actually. Now, my thinking is I'm like, and it was a little bit before I knew that they were trash talking, but everything that I heard before this, I wasn't doing a lot of research. This was all kind of more after the fact that I kind of started formulating these opinions about McGregor. Anyways, I was like, man, McGregor just seems like he's like really, he has that killer mentality right now. Like he's going to win this, So I was like, I'll put a couple bucks toward him. And then he ended up losing. Now, I mean, I even told my wife at the beginning of the fight, I'm like, I like both of them. Like, I don't, like I'm not necessarily, I'm putting my money toward McGregor, but I like both of them. Like, I think Dustin's a good dude from what I know of him, but I'm putting my money toward McGregor. Now I wish I wouldn't have. She put her money toward Poirier and won a little bit of money, but and I lost. I had to borrow money from her today, so or Monday. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, yeah. So but getting into the fight itself, it was exciting at first. I mean, McGregor came out, he was doing these leg kicks, which ultimately probably was part of his demise. But he came out like doing these leg kicks, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna win. I was getting all excited. I was like, I bet right. and then they finally tangled up. Dustin, I think got him with a few punches, kind of stumbled them a tad bit, and they ended up tangling up. And then the rest of the time they were up against the fence for the most part, and Dustin was on top of him. He almost got him on I can't think of the name right now, the chokehold or whatever. McGregor almost got Dustin, and I thought maybe there was going to be a tap out, but it didn't happen. He got out of it, and then Dustin was just on top of him, pounding grounding the whole time. I will give it to McGregor though. The guy's still tough, man. He might be a billionaire, but he's still tough as nails because he held in there. And there was a few times that I was like, I really thought the ref was going to call the fight in Dustin's favor. And he didn't. And I'm glad he didn't. Now, going back to the O'Malley and Chris fight, I think it was Herb, the referee that stopped that fight with 30 seconds left. Now, Chris been getting hit the whole time. Stop that fight with 30 seconds left. And I'm like, why did you stop it? Like there was 30 seconds left. He's been getting beat up the whole time and you stop it with 30 seconds left. It didn't really make sense. So fast forwarding back to the McGregor fight, I was kind of worried that Herb, and I don't know if Herb was like, I probably shouldn't have stopped that last one. So he was kind of hanging on a little longer on this next one. But I was kind of worried about him stopping the fight early. And I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe it would have been better for it to happen, but I don't know. Then I don't know if the storyline would have worked out as well, because now, obviously, like right before the first round was over, McGregor did get on his feet, and then he tried to kick Dustin Poirier, went back to land, or, kicked at him. I don't even know if he connected. And then he went back to catch his balance, and then his foot broke. And I mean, the fight was over. It was a doctor's stoppage. Now, with that said, there's an opportunity there for a fourth fight, because in some sense was the fight, was it settled? I mean, it's kind of, it's a toss up,
Right. Did he truly win on being technically better, or, endure more? I mean, I guess kind of, yeah, but in a way, no. Like,
exactly. So I mean, we'll see how it all plays out, because I kind of feel like there's an angle where, McGregor will come back, and so I'm pretty sure, regardless if they fight or not again, I'm pretty sure that they're going to fight, that both of them will fight somebody else before they fight each other again. Poirier is going to go for the belt. I'm pretty sure. And then McGregor is going to have a warm-up fighter, or maybe even two. So there's going to be there. And now his leg has to heal up and everything has to go that route. But I'm pretty sure that, I mean, what if McGregor loses one of those warm-up fights? You know, then is there even a need for that fourth fight, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's an angle there that all could happen. So, I mean, we'll see what comes, and I hope it happens sooner than later, but it probably won't happen till next year or even the year after. McGregor hasn't been that active. He has a foot that needs healing up, you know. Man, I'll tell you, I was like, whenever I saw that, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm so glad I got strong bones, big legs. Cause I mean, it just looked like a toothpick breaking almost, you know, it was crazy. Yeah. And, man, I can't imagine the pain, you know, I mean, well, luckily
I just kind of go like, you know, your brain, you're so amped up on fighting, your foot gives out on you, breaks, and then like, you know, like how does your brain function that, or, you know, compute it, you know, like hold up, you got something broken, but your whole mentality is like so amped up of like moving forward, and like, you know, I feel like that'd be like the weirdest of like all too, like, oh, I got this excruciating pain, but I got to keep fighting, you know.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, it's even, I mean, I looked because I can't help myself, but like it was hard to look. It's hard to watch those replays, watching that foot go sideways, and yeah, it was tough, but very exciting. You know, I know this is a hunting podcast, and hopefully my fighting analogies and everything get a little bit better, but every once in a while we like to change it up and just bring up some fighting stuff, and or UFC or really anything. I think we brought up a little bit of football in the past, a little bit of I think we brought up fighting more than we have anything else, but I'd like to bring up a little bit of sports every once in a while. And but yeah, it was man, it was fun to watch. I was pretty glad that I bought it, you know, and going back to you know, it only lasted one round, you know, the whole reason you buy the fight is, you know, those other fights were pretty good and I'm not mad at them at all, but you know, you buy those main event fights because you want to see a royal, you know, a dog fight, you know, you just want to see this, and then it's over in the first round, and especially due to a broken foot, you're like, oh man, did I blow my money on this, or you know, was it worth it, or should I have you know, not bought it, I guess. So but regardless, it was worth it. It was fun, you know, it was fun to watch. And I mean, it's one of those things, those big name fights like that. The next one I think that's coming up is Tyson Fury going into boxing, but it's Tyson Fury and oh man, I hate it whenever I do this. What's his face? The guy that he fought last time. I'll think of it later. But anyways, that's a pretty big fight coming up. And you know, it's one of those things, take my money, you know, so
true.
I can't help myself sometimes, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I know we're a hunting podcast. We talk about hunting, but every once in a while it's kind of fun to just bring up something else and share my thoughts on it. Like I said earlier, I haven't fully formulated my thoughts on everything. I just kind of know, like right now, I'm kind of like, man, McGregor was kind of a douchebag this time, you know, and it kind of made me lose respect for him. And when he was sitting there on the canvas, and I mean, there's kind of a point where like I respect him for talking trash after he broke his foot, but he was talking trash like even after he broke his foot and laying on the ground. And I don't know, like, you know, there's a part of me always like in fights, the one thing that I personally always like, I mean, when there's bad blood, there's bad blood. But what I personally always like is whenever, after all the trash talking and everything, they go to blows and they get done and they can shake hands and be like, "Hey, great fight. You know, you put on a great fight tonight."
Right.
I always like that sportsmanship, and so sometimes whenever it's not there, it just seems kind of cringy, and I don't know. Maybe McGregor's fighting demons that we us as fans don't understand, but it's I don't know. I mean, he's just hopefully he figures it out. Hopefully he kind of gets back to the McGregor that he was, but when you're a billionaire, I can imagine. I mean, if I was ever a billionaire, I can tell you that I probably wouldn't be so interested in fighting people.
Right.
So
right now, I'm done.
yeah, kinda. I mean, so I guess in a sense though, kind of talking it out like that, I do kind of have respect for him. The fact that he's probably the only billionaire to ever. Everybody says he's a billionaire. I don't know if he's really a billionaire, but I've been hearing that word float around with his name attached to it. So, but I guess you got to kind of respect the fact that he's a billionaire and still fighting. Most billionaires don't fight, so I guess you got to respect him for that. But it's pretty crazy, and I don't know. I'm definitely after this weekend watching that fight though, like Poirier, like I said, I liked him before, didn't really know a lot about him, but I liked him before the fight. But after the fight, I'm kind of a fanboy of this guy. Like, he's a pretty cool dude. So excited to see what he does in the future and see where he takes his career.
True.
And I don't know. You got any more to put on the fight necessarily?
No, that's about it. That's all. Like I said, I just saw the aftermath and just nuts that he broke his foot, and then even more nuts that he was sitting there with a broken foot and throwing out trash. Like,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, no, that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I got too. I guess the lesson of the day though is don't be throwing other men's wives in the
right.
in the trash talk as well, because that's just kind of cringy, dirty,
Yeah.
sleazy. Guy's a billionaire and he feels like he has to go that route. I mean, what are we doing? So
Right. Yeah, but anyway, so I saw too that you posted on our Facebook, Instagram of a buck.
a little buck. Yeah. Yeah. I was driving to work and saw a buck crossing the road right in front of me. And I was kind of surprised because I haven't really been seeing a lot of wildlife lately. And I was kind of figuring it was because it was so hot. But yesterday in the morning time, I noticed it was. Now I did look whenever I did look at the temperature, but I can't remember for the life of me what the temperature was. But I want to say it's like around 50 degrees or something. So yesterday it kind of cooled down quite a bit. And I was like, I wonder if that has something to do with the movement a little bit. Is it cooled down and they're like, oh, let's go find new territory to feed and water or something. I don't know what it was, but I know I've been more and trying to see animals whenever I can, and I really have the last month or so I really haven't been seeing a lot of wildlife, and yeah, I had one day that seemed a little colder than the rest and saw me a buck, took a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and not really much to the story there, but I did kind of find it interesting that it was that I just was seeing them running around. And the only variable that I could think of why I saw him yesterday and not the last month was maybe a little bit of weather change. Still getting hot as heck in the afternoons, but it was kind of a little colder yesterday morning. And so that was just kind of one of those things that I took note of, I guess. But
We're
speaking of me seeing a buck, you were saying to me earlier that you
yeah,
saw a couple also.
yeah, we did. It was actually I got to give credit to to my wife for spotting. Well, it's kind of funny. There was two of them, but she spotted one of them, and she's like, "You see that deer under that tree?" Well, so I'll back up. We went for a Sunday drive up along the bench here in North Salt Lake, along the mountain range, and there's homes that are right up along it, and we just went, like I said, just going for a drive, not expecting to see anything, just getting out of the house, and her heading down the hill, and she's all, "See that buck?" So, huh? She's like, "Oh, there's a buck back there. It might have been a statue, but that thing was laying still." I was like, "Oh, well, get your camera ready. We'll flip around and go look at it." So we flip around and we start driving back up, and she's like, "It was under that tree." So I look under the tree, and sure enough, there's this buck sitting, laying, bedded up with its head up. And I was like, "Oh, that, it's a 4 point. It looks pretty good." So we sat there and we take a couple pictures, and it was on the opposite side of the road. So, I pulled over to the side of the road that I was on, and we're snapping pictures, and it was in the back. It was on a hillside, and it was kind of lucky that we can even see in it. And I knew that if we turned around and got on the other side, it would be, just a little closer to it. So I wanted to get closer to it, and while still being in the car. So I go to drive up, and just on the other side of the fence, like, there was this 2 point bedded up, and that was the one she saw. So
Oh,
so we snapped a couple of pictures of that, turned around and went back down, snapped some of that one under the tree, and again on this other 4 point on the other side. So that was kind of funny. She's like, "Oh, that's," we just drove past, and we turned around, and we thought was the one that she saw, but the one she saw was on the other side of the fence.
that's funny.
But they were just bedded up in this guy's yard under this big pine tree, and
Wow.
it was a big 2 point. I mean, he wasn't, like, as far as I'm sure there's bigger 2 points, but it wasn't like a little forky, it was 2 points, but he was pretty tall and decently, had some decent width to him. But the 4 point, he wasn't, nothing, wasn't a big 4 point, but he was a 4 point. And then we drove down the hill a little further, and we turned down a street, and here comes another little forky coming up the road. and, then,
Wow.
and then behind him there was another, like, little spike thing that was on the side of the road. So, like, we saw 4 bucks just driving the neighborhood, and it was kind of odd. That little one, that last one we came up, he was mangy looking.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
didn't look too good.
yeah. I was like, man, hopefully that's not, like, good thing I'm not hunting deer this year, because if, I don't know if it was, just a hot, dry summer, or if he just sick or what. But I was like, dude, he does not look like a very meaty buck. And I'm saying, I'm sure he's not that big because he's a 2 point. He's not that old, but
Yeah.
didn't look all that great. But yeah, so
It's
it's, at least both of us got to see some deer without really going off into the woods.
yeah, yeah, it's nice little change of pace. I know
Yeah,
for me, like I said, no, I know for me, I haven't seen any for at least a month, it seems like, give or take. I mean, usually I see them all the time, and I just haven't really been seeing much at all lately. So yeah, whenever I saw him, I just thought that, and then a buck on top of that, that he had a doe, the one, or he had a doe with him also. I didn't have her in the picture, but
yeah.
but he
I'm
did
sure that
have a
was his
doe with
mom.
her. Yeah, you might be right. Might be right. But it was cool to see him regardless.
No, it
But
is.
you kind of, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, no, well, okay, yeah, I guess I will. I was just going to kind of segue into you kind of brought it up that you didn't have a deer tag this year.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, talking about seeing deer, you know, it's kind of fun to see them, and it's kind of odd. This isn't the first year without a deer tag, but that's kind of what my hunting, I guess you want to call it a career. My hunting life has been revolved around deer. So, like, whenever I don't have a deer tag, it just feels kind of odd, like, I need to be out searching for deer, and in a way it's kind of nice, just to focus on the elk, but it just feels almost naked in a way without having a deer tag. It's just, something's not right. But I feel like I need to be out there looking for deer, but it's kind of nice in a way to be like, oh no, I can just focus on the elk and not stress about the deer. But I do miss, in a way, searching for deer. It is kind of fun to search for deer and see where they pop out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's always fun. Um, I was gonna say you kind of brought up a good point about just searching for elk. Last year, whenever we went hunting together, and uh, I did feel like it was kind of weird at times because like I felt like some moments we were like hunting for elk and some moments we were hunting for deer. It was kind of like
Right.
always it was kind of a little bit of back and forth, and even I guess even today I'm like I don't know which one we were hunting for more. I think we're
Right.
kind of hunting for both of them about the same, so
Yeah.
which maybe if we would have focused on one, maybe it would have changed a few approaches and we might have had a little more success in one way or another. But
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's probably something to be said there where it's not so confusing because, like, you know, if you only focus on one, you don't have to worry about what you're searching for the other. So unless you're just in an area, anyways, yeah, there's all the scenarios. Oh, you're in a great area. There's going to be opportunities for both. But anyways, but yeah, last year it did feel, there was a couple times, it's like, oh, well, saw some elk tracks. We're hunting for elk now.
yep. Yeah. I mean, it was still fun. Doesn't really matter, but yeah. I just kind of, I remember there's a few times I'm like, I need to confirm with Joe what we're hunting for right now. Cause I'm not 100% sure.
And I think I was mostly hunting deer, but like at the same time, like I think that one guy that we bumped into the last day, I was like, oh yeah, we're hunting elk. And then he like went into the big old spiel about how he hunt elk and how it's supposed to be done. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We're
Yeah.
hunting deer
Right.
too, but I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah. Everybody has an opinion how you're supposed to do it. It's
Right.
always fun. It's always fun to hear.
Right.
I enjoy hearing that one.
Right. I mean, like I did take away, what he had to say, but it was just funny, like how he just dove into like his, almost like it was like a religion on how to do
Yeah.
it. And I mean, of course, it brought him success. So yeah, he's gonna hunt that way, but in that area that he was hunting. But it was just, got a lecture on hunting elk when we weren't searching for one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's always nice whenever you hear somebody's opinion. They don't even know half of what you've done. Oh,
Right.
you got to hunt up there. Well, we were up there. Guess
Right. We
what? We
just got back. We're actually leaving from up there. We got to head home now.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, well, and then, I mean, you know, I, I was going to ask you actually, do you, do you ever have plans on going back to the honey hole?
Uh, I don't know, because I kind of got mixed emotions on that because it's that honey hole was nice. Like still can't believe how much sign that we saw. Like, it wasn't like any doubt of what sign we saw. Like it was both deer and elk, and there was a lot of it. And the downside to it if now that we've been there, we know where to go. But it's also, I'll say it's close to a road, and other people can find it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably go back at some point and try to look there. But like, if I get a tag, yeah, I'll be back in there. I'll probably check it out just because it still amazes me how much sign that we saw. Like,
Yeah. I still feel like if we would have saw it earlier, we might have had at least a few chances.
right,
If we would have went down there earlier in the weekend. But I
right,
mean, you live and you learn, but yeah, that is the hard thing, man. It was so hard to get away from the roads, and I can only imagine, I mean, we talked about it a million times on the podcast about elk and deer both not really liking motorized vehicles, and almost everywhere you went, that's all you could hear is motorized vehicles.
Right.
So
Well, like that's like so that next, I think it was the next weekend I went back in there and I did hunt it for deer. And when I got up there too late to go in to actually hunt. So I just glassed that area from the road. And and there was like two other hunters that were in there doing the same thing. So it's like it's known. I mean, it's kind of cool that area can be seen from the road because like it's hard. Like I still can't believe how much sign that we saw in there. Like it was everywhere.
yeah, and that wallow too. I mean, that wallow looked fairly fresh, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it was, but like you said, it being right next to the road and other hunters, and it probably gets hit pretty hard whenever.
Right.
Like you almost got to hit it opening weekend and hope that not a lot of other people are hitting it at the same time. And then after that, it's probably because it wasn't the biggest area either. So
No. No.
you might have before before the elk and deer realize that they're getting pressured and head out.
And the other thing too is that there's the other side of it is you think of it, there's some escape routes out of there. And that area had a lot of feed in there. So like I don't know if they were, like going in there at night and then, heading out their escape routes and getting into places that people don't go. So there could have been elk in that along that ridge, just further, deeper in down it, just where people weren't going.
Yeah.
Because there is some, looking back, there is some big timber, in that area, just, and there was no one else when we were there. And when I was up there again, there was no one else going into that spot, into those areas where that other timber was, but they were a hike. It wasn't like, I'm going to leave and be there in 10 minutes. It was a good hike to get to some of those spots. So it might be worth going back in there and just glassing those spots too, just seeing if there's any activity. So I'll probably be smart to go in there and spend some time glassing those areas.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, I really like that area. I don't know. There's a lot of good area in there. That dark timber that we walked in was pretty sweet too. I wish that we would have. I guess one of my regrets, because I feel like it was kind of on me because kind of talked you out of it. I'm like, man, it's so thick in here, but there's a part of me that regrets it, and I'm like, you know what, we should have walked through there. I mean, it was like one of those things. Just wasn't in my right mind, I guess, or whatever. But it wasn't my hunt to really even say anything, so I feel bad about that. But and I don't know. It seemed like it was so dense in there and stuff. I'm like, man, walking through here is something else. So I was like, I don't know.
Well, that was my first time into that area too. So it was something else. And I'll probably get that tag again at some point, and we'll be in somewhere in that area because I'd like to pull a deer out of there at some point in my life. It's just one of those goal areas in a way. But
yeah, I think it'd be fun to pull something out of there. Yeah. It would have been nice if we would have just got something in that private that we hunted first.
Right.
Got our deer there and then just spent the rest of the time just focusing on elk. That would have been pretty nice. That's yeah. I think some of my thought is when we were walking in that dark timber, there wasn't a lot of sign. Like the sign looked pretty old, and I was like, I don't know. I just ain't. I mean, I know it was kind of a mutual decision, but I just remember like my thoughts on it, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It just seems like there's not much activity.
like looking back on it too, like I got thinking about it. I probably should have looked at the maps a little better and found it because I'm thinking there would have been a big bowl area with some because there was water way up in there. And if I would have found a way that would have gotten into that to upper end of it better, it might have been a honey hole like we found, because there's water and I think there was open grass and stuff in there too. But getting to it was kind of difficult. So I kind of want to go back in there and do some scouting anyways, and just seeing what that area is like further up in that darker timber.
Yeah, for sure.
But because like that one going through that one, it was pretty rough, pretty tough going. But live and learn.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Sounds good. Well, I'll get us out of here.
Sounds good.
Were you gonna say something?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, guys. Well, thanks for listening to another episode. I know this one was kind of a little all over the place. Spent most of our time talking about UFC, but it was fun. It was fun to watch, and I'm kind of fun to talk about and go over this stuff. So if you enjoyed this podcast, consider subscribing and liking. Appreciate you guys that listen every week. We see it in our algorithms, and there's a few of you guys that tune in every week, and we really appreciate it. It's very humbling because, it's one of those things. It's like, man, there's people that really care to listen to us. So I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, or whatever you want, whatever you want to say. It's pretty cool, and it's exciting, and glad to, keep growing and getting a little more popular. I mean, it's kind of taking its time, but seems like we're growing a few extra listeners every week. So it's pretty nice. With that said, guys, thanks for listening to the Struggling Hunters, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Have a good week, and we'll see you later.
Have a good one, guys.